The positive was only, I believe, 56 or 57%. So if this would have been, so even this overwhelming win didn't satisfy the 60% threshold that they were proposing. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how things play out in November. I think we're going to get a win for reproductive rights in November in Ohio, as we have in the 5 other states that have had referendums on it. And, I think the team on the other side is trying to figure out how to handle it, because their winning issue that brought out their base isn't winning so much anymore. And along these same lines here, I have another, this was forwarded to me by Ed Spire, who does a lot of the misinformation stuff, and a lot of you in NWSOFA are familiar with Ed from some of the other groups. A Chicago Tribune article talking about a woman who had a lot of medical complications and was told that she was going to have to remain in the hospital for several days here in Chicago, which she hadn't been planning on, in conjunction with a medically necessary abortion. And people here from the Chicago Abortion Fund stepped up to help her get clothes to wear, because she hadn't packed enough, clothes and food and all that. And they took care of her hotel room, got her snacks and water and everything, and took care of her. And it says, seeking to address such situations, I'll read the little bit in red. The state of Illinois in August is launching a service to help connect women seeking abortions who have more complex medical issues and need hospital care with the proper providers when standalone clinics cannot provide the necessary services. So, bottom line here in Illinois, we care a lot about people, and I thought that was really nice. So I'm just going to flash the agenda up, and then I'm going to welcome everybody to maybe say hi, and then we're going to put Mary on at shortly after that. So 70 whatever we're running, 706, 707. So Mary Sevandal Cohen is here for 13th Subcircuit Judge, maryforjudge.com. We're going to hear from her. And then about 7:30ish, Maria Galo is going to join for briefly, and she's going to talk about Mental Health Referendum 708, and you can find that at advocatefor708.org. And we'll review what's upcoming on the GPAD Dems calendar, and we'll talk about the NWSOFA picnic. Yay, we're all going to be there. And then we will continue our episode 2 here of Letters to Lawmakers, that initiative that Kathy and I have launched. And then we have a few minutes for open discussion at the end. And Kathy, anything you want to add to that before we turn it over to Mary here?
Great. All right.
Take introductions.
It's like 7:04. For 2 minutes, I just want to say some of the things that I have been able to attend. I'd mentioned in the email our own WSOFA wonderful team leaders with the climate change group, gun violence prevention group. I know the fiscal group, they meet every month, and I don't understand them very well, and I should pay attention more. They're a little over my head, and it's okay. They're doing great. But the speakers that I heard this last month were phenomenal. This Mike Zanillo, he was with the climate change meeting, and he is involved with, Citizens for Climate Change, whatever. I always just feel more hopeful after I leave these particular meetings, especially with all that's been going on here. Maui, our paradise is burning up and all that. But some of the things that Mike said, even just having a grid from the East Coast to the West Coast that everybody could be plugging into with sustainable energy can make such a difference. And that's something that our administration is talking about, that private sector is talking about. He said, honestly, there are good things that are happening. We just have to be aware of them. And of course, we have to keep our pro-climate change, sustainable energy candidates elected in office so that we can move everything along. And then the gun violence prevention, this last month, Kathy, and she led it this month. It was on survivors of gun violence, Yolanda Androzo, who is an absolute wonderful host of things that are going on in Chicago. I just always feel like there is a lot going on that's helping us as a state, as a nation, helping people, like as Michelle said, and as Mary said. So we've got to keep this blue wave growing and going. And that's all I'm gonna say. It's just been a good month. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Mary, with that, would you like to take it away here?
Thank you. And I want to first thank Kathy and Michelle for inviting me to speak with you all this evening. As Michelle had my website up, I saw on the screen share, I'm running for judge in the 13th Judicial Subcircuit of Cook County. And for those of you who don't know where that is, that's the farthest northwest corner where you can still be in Cook County. So Barrington Hills, Schaumburg, Hoffman Estates, Streamwood, a little bit of Palatine Township. I've got the Cook County portions of Elgin, Bartlett, Hanover Park. This is Cook County is where I'm running. And what I always tell people is Cook County is one of the largest unified court systems in the United States, as we were talking before, second only to Los Angeles. And in Cook County, there's 3 ways of becoming a judge. You can be appointed by the Illinois Supreme Court. You can be appointed, it's an essential appointment. You get selected by the chief judge of Cook County, and you are voted in by the already sitting circuit judges. Or you can do the 3rd way, which is what I'm doing. And I'm running for judge, just for public office, just as anybody else who's going to be running in the primary. The reason why I'm running for judge, I'm not sure how knowledgeable you are about the makeup of the judges of Cook County. There are approximately 400 to 500 sitting judges who serve the bench in Cook County. And out of that number, they are made up of only 1/3 women. Out of that number, less than 15 are Asian American. My family immigrated from the Philippines. My parents, they have been so supportive of me, but I can tell you, they absolutely never, ever wanted me to go to law school because we just are not familiar. They're just, as Asian immigrants, it was just not something that they were familiar with. They didn't see themselves represented in government. They knew that if I decided to study the law, I would have to do that on my own. And whatever I accomplished in my legal career and whatever I wanted to do, they didn't know anybody. They couldn't help me. Long story short, I have no clout. So I have to do everything I can, basically on my own. And that's really why I'm doing it, because my parents who immigrated to this country in the late 70s, who never saw themselves represented in government, really, I never saw that either. And I've been practicing in Cook County for going on 18 years now. And it's the same thing, because if you're an Asian American practicing in Cook County and there's less than 15 Asian American judges, the chances of you appearing before one of them is very, very small. And I, for one, am sick of walking into a courtroom and being mistaken for either the court reporter or the interpreter. And, you know, a lot of times people say, we want to see that change. We want to see that change. We want to have a diverse bench. And I've reached the point where I'm just not going to sit around and wait to ask myself, when is that change going to happen? Because I know that I can be that change. And I know that from the judges who are sitting on the bench and have encouraged me to do that and who have set me on this path. So of all those judges that are sitting on the bench, we are still a very small represented number relative compared to the population of Cook County. And what people should understand about the judiciary, which I think they don't, is, you know, we are that 3rd branch of government that the average citizen is most likely to come into contact with, because whether it be a traffic ticket or a name change or an adoption or a car accident, you're most likely to come before a judge in Cook County. And people need to see themselves represented on the bench. That's just not happening based on what I'm seeing today. And in my own subcircuit where I live, and that's why I'm running in the 13th, we currently have 9 sitting judges who were elected from the 13th subcircuit. Of those 9 judges, all of them are Caucasian. And of those 9 judges, only 1 is a woman. And that is not representative of the population where we live, where almost 50% is made up of people of color, Latinx, Asian American, African American, and where more than half of the population is made up of women. So I really felt this need to just be part of the change that I want to see. And you really do have to see it to believe it, because when I graduated from law school, I think there were plenty of people who thought, I'm going to go on this path, I'm going to run for judge. But that's really not what I saw, because I didn't see people who looked like me running for judge and doing that kind of work. But once you see people there who encourage you, you really come to think, if this is it, this is the time for me to be part of the change. So I'm trying to bring more representation because I believe that the judiciary should represent the community that it serves. So that's why I'm running for judge. That's why I'm running for judge in Cook County. That's where I live. And I think I saw a couple questions out on the chat. Do we want to answer those now, or?
Sure. One of them was what would be your responsibilities of being a judge of a 13th Subcircuit court?
So if you're elected into the 13th Subcircuit, your assignment is going to be anywhere within Cook County because we have a unified court system. That means they'll put me anywhere within the county. But I stress so much how important judicial elections are, especially at the circuit court level. Because as we were talking before we started, the people who are seeking the position that I am, circuit court judge, will get assigned to any number of courtrooms within Cook County. That could be the Daly Center, that could be 26 in California. My background, I'm happy to say, I have trial procedure and experience in both civil and criminal. I would really be comfortable in any setting based on my prior work history and the fact that I'm a litigator who has done both. They will go where the need is. They will go where the seats need to be filled. I could get any assignment from being in traffic court to being in family court to being in criminal court. And within all of those different divisions, there's different things that are done. There's motion call judges that hear motions on a regular basis. There's status call judges that make sure that cases are on time with what they're supposed to be doing. And then there's trial judges that hear the actual jury trials and bench trials. Same thing with criminal courts. It's not just one thing, they have within criminal court, drug court, they have traffic court, they have misdemeanor, they have a whole building that is dedicated to domestic violence. So, there's any number of assignments. And when we talk about representation, we need the bench to look like the people it serves. It's because there is any number of people of color, women who go before the courts, and if they see that the judges all look the same and don't look like them, they're really going to question whether or not they're getting a fair shot or whether or not they're being represented, because visibility absolutely matters, especially when we're talking about the people's work and people coming before courts to see that they're represented.
Can I speak one real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember that question I asked you about Michael Cincinnati?
Yes.
He's a former judge. He's a retired judge of Painesville, the Painesville Municipal Court since January, and he has been judged since January 1944, if that's correct. Who is best known for his fresh approach to justice and unique sentences. Like, for example, he sentenced a drunken driver to see crash victims' bodies. I don't know if that helped reduce crime rate or not, but if it did, if his unique approach to justice, if that unique actually works, maybe you should try and adopt it. Because I'm trying to research that and see if that's what the U.S. government needs more like him. That's because if I became president and there was a open seat in the Supreme Court, I would pick him.
Okay. I've never come before that judge. But I will say, you made a very important point, because you said that judge has been a judge since 1944. And that's, I don't know if that's true, but what is true is that judges, once they're elected on the bench, it's a 6-year retention vote where they have to get 60% of the vote. And that's why the majority of judges, once they're in, as long as they get the retention vote, they're in. So we have the same judges that have been sitting on the bench for years and years and years. And it's not that they're bad judges, it's not that they're doing all the wrong thing. But when we talk about getting a diverse bench, diversity isn't just, I'm a woman and this is where my family's from and this is the color of my skin. But age is also something that comes into contact with diversity. Gender, marital status. I'm a mom of 3 kids. I can't tell you, if I had a mom before me, it just gives you a whole other level of understanding of what people go through. And those are the people that are going to be coming before the court. So perspective is important. That also goes into diversity. I grew up in the city. I live in the suburbs now, but I grew up in the city. I get what that's like. I live in the suburbs now. I understand what that's like. I think that demographic diversity entails a lot. And if we're trying to build a diverse bench so that the community can see themselves represented, I think that's what we need to look for in candidates. Not just that, but most importantly, and what I'm most proud of, is that my judicial evaluations from all of the bar associations have come back as highly recommended, and qualified. Now, I'm Asian American. My name is Spanish because the Philippines was colonized by Spain. I speak Spanish because I studied abroad. My husband is Jewish, so I have a Jewish last name. So many of you might think, well, of course the Puerto Rican bar is going to give her a good rating because she's got a Spanish name. And of course the Asian American bar is going to give her a good rating because she's Asian. And of course the Decalogue Society of Jewish Lawyers is going to give her a good rating because she's got a Jewish name. But I am most proud of all of those bar associations where I have no connection to. You have no reason to believe that I would do anything to favor because of my particular background or my demographics. But the fact that all of them have found me qualified, highly recommended, and recommended, I think that's what I want the voters to look at. Don't vote for me because I'm a woman and because I'm Asian, but vote for me because those bar associations, the Alliance of Illinois Bar Associations, would not have given me those ratings if I were not qualified, if I were not ethical, if during the entire process, and it's very rigorous because they look at every trial I tried, they talk to every judge whose name I put down, they talk to every judge who I didn't put down, whose name they got from talking to somebody else whose name I put down. They talked to my very first boss, my very first state's attorney that I worked for out of law school. And if not one of those people had something bad to say about me, not one of those attorneys who I tried cases against had anything but good things to say about me, I would not have been found recommended. And I think I'm most proud of that because that is the most neutral way of showing you that I am fit for this job and that I want to do this job. I want to do this so that I could represent the community. And I want to do this so that my kids can see this. You know, growing up, I didn't have anyone who looked like me that I thought, I want to do that job because that's what I can do. But I want my kids to look at me and think, that's what a judge looks like. And I want your kids to look at me and think, that's what a judge looks like. Because
that really matters. That representation really matters.
Really?
Yes. I see we have a couple more questions here coming in on the chat, and that's great. Thank you, everybody who's putting them in on the chat.
That was beautiful.
Jacqueline Haynes says, I understand you would likely be assigned to a traffic courtroom at first, but what division would you prefer to sit in? And maybe along those lines too, you could tell us about a little more about your experience as a lawyer and along those lines as well.
I absolutely tell you. I started out thinking I was going to do public interest work. So when I was a legal intern, since I speak Spanish, I did immigration law at the Chicago Legal Clinic in Pilsen. And then my second summer out of law school, I worked for an organization called the AIDS Legal Council of Chicago that served HIV positive clients in any need. It was anything. And it was Ann Fisher. It was my executive director at that time who said, but Mary, if you want to do trial work, you can't work here because we don't have the resources to take any of these cases to trial. You need to go to a PD's office. You need to go to a state's attorney's office and get your experience there. So what I ended up doing was I just applied to every state's attorney's office I could. I was behind. I was late to the game because I never 7-Eleven'd as a prosecutor. I took a job way west into DeKalb County, and it was the best decision I ever made because I met my husband there. Got married, slowly made my way back to Cook County. I wanted to do trial work still, but I wanted to do something other than criminal. So I ended up my criminal career doing traffic, misdemeanor, and domestic violence, DUI prosecutions. I went to Pace Suburban Bus, and I have worked in-house for Pace Suburban Bus going on 15, 16 years now. And we provide mass public transit for the ADA community and suburban Cook County and the collar counties. And I primarily work in civil litigation, but because I work in-house, we do a lot. And I do a lot with the ADA community. I serve as a hearing officer anytime there's paratransit riders who have issues, suspensions, we're trying to get their service back in place. So I have a wide breadth of legal experience in many areas. I honestly, and I should put on a side note, my husband's a criminal attorney. And there's privilege there. So when he tells me about his cases and his clients and can you believe this happened and what do you think about this? He picks my former prosecutor brain. I give him my thoughts and we go back and forth. So I really, I don't have a pick. There's nothing that I would do. I will tell you that they are most likely to put you in an area that you need. I practice in law division, which is $50,000 and over, negligence cases, and first municipal, which is also negligent cases for a lesser amount. There is not representation there. There are very few Asian American judges there. And I have that experience with complex litigation. If they put me there, I would be happy to serve in any capacity. But I will say that I find that applying the law is just knowing procedure and being able to read the law, because I get new things all the time in my place of work. And I wouldn't mind at all knowing the procedure and seeing a different area of law and how that plays out. I think that for the average person, they think that lawyers have to know everything about every bit of law. But when you try a case, hearsay is hearsay in the same kind of case. Evidence that would be admissible in one case is the same type of evidence that would be admissible in another case. You just have to look at the case law. So I am happy to learn new things. I would be happy to serve in any capacity. And really, that's what it is. You're serving where you're needed. So I would serve where I'm needed.
And Mary, are there a lot of other candidates that you'll be running against? What is that field like?
So right now in the 13th Judicial Subcircuit, I will likely be one of the very few candidates that will have a Republican opponent, because here in the 13th, we've always had Republican opponents. Now, I am not deterred. There are two judicial seats open. Whether it's based on the retirement of two judges who live in this subcircuit. That's how the subcircuit seats open up. If a judge retires out of your subcircuit, then you can run in that subcircuit. The judge who retired in this subcircuit, her name is Ketke Stephan. She is Indian American, and she set me on this path 2 years ago. She knew she was retiring, and I think she said, you better get on it. You need to do this. You need to do this. And I will be the first person to tell you, with my 3 little boys, I could not do anything more than get their lunches ready, get the laundry done, go to work, get home, get the dog to the vet, figure out the drop-off schedule for baseball. I could not take on one more thing. But she really made me see it. And you need that. I think sometimes you need someone who sees you more than what you see in yourself, because she really pushed me and she really said, you need to do this. And I think you need that. Sometimes you don't see what you can do until somebody else who's done it before you puts you aside and says, not only can you do this, but you have to do this. So she retired. I'm hoping to take her seat. There's another vacancy. So far, we don't know who's running in them. I'm the only one who's declared so far. I check out the Illinois State Board of Elections to see if anybody else is declared. I start collecting signatures on September 5th. The first date to file my signatures is November 27th. I believe the last day is December 7th, so we will know by then.
So let me call and see if anybody who hasn't asked a question yet has a question for Mary. And if so, if you have not yet asked a question, go ahead and unmute. Otherwise, I have a couple more. All right. Well, then to close, Mary, when is the election? And secondly, what can we do to help you?
Oh, wonderful. Well, you had my website on there. So I would say, please go to my website for updates. So you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook, maryforjudge.com, Mary for Judge on Instagram. Go on my website. I think the way that most people can help is when it's time to get yard signs up. If you're in my subcircuit, if you know somebody in my subcircuit, please reach out to me. You can reach out to me on my website. I will get every email that gets sent or every message that's sent to my website, or get me directly on Facebook or Instagram. Send me a message, DM me. Signs are helpful. The other thing I tell people is I'm so happy to meet you and your friends. If you live in my subcircuit, if you have a book club, if you have a group of girls that you have coffee with every Saturday, introduce me, invite me. I'm so happy to meet people and just tell them about myself and why they should be voting in the primary. The primary is on March 19th. If I make it through the primary, then it's on to November on the presidential ballot. And like you said, we all need to be riding this blue wave. We've got to just keep it going. So really, that's my goal. I'll start collecting signatures. I think we'll do several petition drives maybe with some of the other organizations. So, you might see me pop up there. I know some of the other organizations are doing some, but, I'm getting out there and knocking on doors. I'm doing it, me and my husband, because judicial races they're so strange, because it's like a political race that's not, it shouldn't be political. And I think that people never know who to vote for. And I know this because they ask me who to vote for. My friends say, I don't know any of these judges. They're random names on the ballot. Who do we vote for? And what I always tell people is go on the Alliance of Illinois State Bar Association, go on the Alliance website, go look at the judicial evaluations, see who's qualified. Don't vote for anybody who's not qualified or not recommended. I encourage you all to do that. I was evaluated last year. Those ratings are good for 4 years. You can really see, they will tell you the rigorous process that they go through to look at every candidate. I thought it was the worst interview of my life when I interviewed with all those people, but apparently it turned out fine. But that's how rigorous it is. And it should be because this is a public office that serves the people. And especially what we're hearing with the Supreme Court and judges and being unethical, and there's no power to check that. You want to make sure that you are doing your part to make sure that qualified, ethical candidates are being voted into office, because those candidates have the potential to reach the second level, which is the appellate court. And then they have the potential to reach the third level, which is the Illinois Supreme Court. And in the federal court system being what it is, where they're kicking a lot of things to the states, if you have a problem with what the federal law has done with what's happening, and it gets pushed over to your state, and there's some legislation that's going to pass that you either agree or disagree with, it's eventually going to go to your state Supreme Court. And every single one of those justices started out where I'm starting out. So it's so important that you keep in mind who you're voting in and who you want sitting on those very, very important seats.
It looks like Bill has a question. Yes, Bill?
I do. It's a invitation and a question. The first is, since you're a candidate, NWSOFA, who covers the 6 townships of which you're in that southern western area, we have our picnic on Saturday, August 19th. That's a week and a half from now, or 2 weeks from now.
Calendar. I will absolutely be there if that was the invitation.
Okay, and we'll even have you give you a microphone about 3 o'clock, right after lunch. We'll have lunch at 2. So you and other candidates will be able to say hi to our group. And there's usually around 135, 140 people that transit during the day. We start at noon. We go to God knows when. But it'll be about 40, 45 people you should get a chance to say hi to. My question is, recently Ron DeSantis down in Florida fired a prosecutor. And this morning on our coffee and conversation, we were talking about whether or not, how does a governor have the power to do that? Is the same in Illinois? What kind of reach is there?
So I'm not familiar. I didn't read that story. I'm not sure if that was a federal prosecutor. I don't think he could fire a federal prosecutor. It would have to be a state prosecutor in one of the counties. I'm not sure what the details are of that.
Okay.
So I don't want to answer something that I can't speak to.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, though. Maybe by the 19th you'll have the answer.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome, Cole. I see Cole Bennett has joined just in time to catch the website, maryforjudge.com. Mary, thank you so much. I know a lot of us are going to be there at the picnic. You've got us excited. We're thrilled to have met you. And, so all right, then. We're going to go ahead and move into the next part of the program here. And I'm going to share my screen again. Did you want to go ahead, Kathy?
Well, I don't see Maria Galo on yet. Cole is here, and sometimes Cole knows a lot of stuff, but maybe we should move on to the picnic. Do you think?
That's what I was going to suggest. Exactly. So I'm going to skip this stuff here that Maria would talk to. And are you seeing my screen, guys? That says picnic and a picture of a picnic.
No, not yet. I just see Mary. Hold on, which we love seeing Mary and her kids and her husband. Oh wait, let me slide down. Maybe no. Can you slide it down?
Oh, hang on. It should just say picnic. You're not seeing Oh, I see. You're seeing, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Hang on. Let me try this again. All right. Thank you. All right. Here we go. Picnic. That's better. And here's Maria right on time. Maria Gallo, welcome. And we're going to put you on as soon as we talk about the picnic here. So we just finished with Mary Sevandal Cohen. She's going to make sure we get signs, and we're going to all buy your signs or get them at GPAD or whatever, but we're going to all pop up your signs.
Read your website. She has a great
Yes.
website. Great.
Maryforjudge.com. I put it in the chat. Now, moving on to the picnic, I want you to look for these emails from NWSOFA. It's on Saturday, August 19th, noon to 6. There's the address. You can write that down, 4152 North Terramere on the lake. Look at that beautiful scene behind Bill there. That is where we're going to be. And those of you who are coming, we welcome you to bring, you can bring any or all of the following: a dish to share, a bag of ice, always need ice, one or more lawn chairs, you know, where we tend to be short of chairs. And if anybody has canopy tents, I think Bill might welcome some canopy tents. Bill, you talk about this because you know more about it than I do here. You're on mute.
I am. Well, as I said just a few minutes ago while I was inviting Mary, it's a fun event. We get a lot of legislators, and we get a lot of candidates. And we also not only have them speak to the people that are there right after lunch, but we ask our leaders to talk. And one of our leaders is going to be doing a presentation on the IRA, the different IRA than you're thinking of. This is the Investment Reduction Act that was passed. And it's going to be Mark Lundholm that heads up our climate change group. And he's going to be talking about the impact that the IRA legislation has had on furthering non-carbon-based power across the U.S. And he's going to have a table there. It's, you know, he may say a few words, but we're asking people just to go up and kind of chat and talk with him. The candidates are, and their sponsors, etc., are invited to bring signs and stuff to hand out. You know, it'll be a lot of fun. And yesterday, I was looking at an 80% chance of rain. Today, it's gone. Yay! So we'll see what tomorrow brings.
You're really predicting far out there, Bill, but I won't be surprised if you go through another rain and then clear cycle. So we're going to have sun for you though, right?
All
okay.
Right. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now so Maria can talk about advocate for 70. I'm going to get the number wrong. Go ahead, Maria. You're muted.
Okay. Well, thank you all for inviting me, and thank you for asking about the 708 board, because there's been some developments in the last 24 hours on that. What the 708 board is a mental health board, the creation of a separate board in each township that would focus specifically on mental health, that would focus on resources, that would be able to collect a very small tax in the township that could be devoted towards mental health services, towards giving grants or sharing funding with all the agencies that are around us that deal with mental health. Because right now, those agencies are funded by the different townships, like we're Palatine Township, and next to us is Wheeling Township to the east. Barrington Township is to the west. And then there's Northfield Township. There's 30 townships in Cook County outside of the city of Chicago. And so NAMI, which I believe is North American Mental Illness Association, they have been very successful in implementing these mental health boards to really focus resources on mental health. Mental health cases are rising. It's becoming more and more apparent. It's becoming more and more of an issue for people, especially with COVID happening. And by having a mental health board that is focused on this, we can raise more money and have more of an impact on the community to really address that situation and to really pull in the police department and social service agencies, and really create more of a network. The police departments are for it. They think, anything that will help them in addressing mental health issues, because right now it's the police and it's the hospitals. And so this is a way to kind of build a network. In order to create this mental health board, there is a 708 committee that consists of Hugh Brady and Lori Granowy. They are from NAMI, and Hugh actually is from Palatine, and I think Lori's from Arlington Heights, and they have been on the board and part of the legislative liaison of NAMI to the state legislature. And so they have been heading up these campaigns throughout Cook County and in other counties, Kane County, DuPage County, McHenry County. There's a township in Lake County that just passed. Schaumburg Township just passed in 2020. Or in November, they passed a mental health board. So they've been very experienced in getting these mental health boards passed, and they're running the campaign. I want to talk about what has been happening in Wheeling Township, which is to the east of us. Wheeling Town, what happens with the 708 board is that you collect signatures to put it on the ballot, and it's a referendum by everybody in the residents in the township to say, yes, I want to create a separate taxing body that will focus on mental health issues. It passed overwhelmingly in Wheeling Township in November of last year, overwhelmingly. What happens then is that the township supervisor has 60 days to name members of a board, and the board has to be approved by the township board. Well, the township board in Wheeling Township, they're all Republicans, and they were all totally opposed to a mental health board. So they named to the board all the people who were opposed to the mental health board. And since then, they have been slow walking the implementation of this mental health board and thwarting the will of the people in Wheeling Township, because that referendum passed. Last night at the mental health board meeting, the township lawyer said that he's been looking at the case law and that the referendum was invalid, that the referendum that passed, the wording was not correct. It did not include the proper wording for property taxes, and that the board cannot levy a tax because the referendum was not properly worded. This has put, we don't know what's going to happen with this, but they refuse to implement any kind of tax or creating any of that kind of tax. They say that the township already gives enough money to mental health services, and they said that this is that you can't go any further. So they couldn't win at the ballot box, and so they're trying to go through a technicality to thwart the will of the people. What this means for us in Palatine is that Hugh Brady and Lori Granowy and the people on the committee of the 708 board, they're talking to lawyers to see whether or not the wording on the referendum on the ballot, the petitions, need to be reworded. So we at Greater Palatine Area Democrats, we've been canvassing during the summer and collecting signatures. So we are pulling all those petitions back, and we're going to wait. We're aiming to get this on the ballot in 2025. So there's plenty of time for us to get signatures. But it really is a warning to us, because in Palatine, Republicans control the township. And so the next election for the township is in 2025, and it's the only partisan election in the spring. So that election is April 1, 2025. And it's those township races are every 4 years, and they're always the spring after the presidential election. And they're the only partisan spring election. Everything else is nonpartisan, but it's the only partisan one. And we ran a slate in 2021, and it was the first time in 12 years that we ran a slate in Palatine. We got 46% of the vote, and we're going to run another slate, and we're also going to be putting this 708 board on the ballot so that we can campaign against it. And all of the fighting that the Republicans are doing in Wheeling to try to undermine this, we're just going to be using that to campaign and to let people know this is how low they will go in order to not help people.
Where have we not heard that before, in thwarting the will of the people? I think we just saw that in Ohio. It seems like the only way they can win is to pull these underhanded kind of things. You know, I mean, if it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, you can see, you know, hopefully, yeah, but that takes years and years. So, oh, wow. Is it, we got a question in the chat. I'm going to let Kathy talk, but is it true that some of the hospitals have closed down their psych wards and stuff since COVID? Because that means there's even less care available for mental health. So I don't know if you want to answer that or
I
no.
don't, I do not know. I think here in Cook County, I think we've got it pretty good. But Cole is a nurse at Northwest Community Hospital. And so,
Raise his hand. Cole?
and he's got his hand up.
Mhm.
Hi, everybody. This is Cole Bennett. Sorry for the background noise.
Hi.
I'm driving right now, but so happy to be a part of this conversation, especially the 708 board. Just a couple things. I wanted to add that the 708 board would not only address mental health issues, but also disability spending. Illinois ranks 35th. That's 35 in the nation for disability spending. So when we talk about disability spending, right, from my perspective, I'm a nurse. I think about those that struggle with disabilities who are our seniors, who are veterans, who sacrifice their lives for this country. And what's really disappointing to me, even more disappointing than the petitions being inaccurate, but we'll get that worked out, is that our township would not be supportive of supporting those individuals, whether with mental health or with disability. And to address the concern about mental health facilities closing down, I'm not so certain that it's a salient issue here in the northwest suburbs, although that is not to say that mental health issues are at an all-time high in this area. I believe the statistic is 1 in 5 adults have either experienced mental health issues themselves or know someone else who does. So obviously a very important issue to our community, where you're seeing mental health facilities maybe close down or hospitals closing down, period, is in our rural communities that already lack access to accessible and equitable healthcare. We're very fortunate in the Northwest burbs because of our affluence to have access to high quality healthcare. Now, that's not to say that a blanket statement for everyone that lives here, right? We should always strive to do better. But I think that this 708 board would address those concerns. I am a believer that investment is not the sole solution, but it's a start. And I will be rallying in huge support for this mental health board. I think when we look at Wheeling Township, they supported it overwhelmingly. There's been some back and forth in Wheeling Township about its effectiveness as well. But that goes back to who's on the Palatine Township board. And we also have to think about that as well. As Maria was saying, it's the only partisan race in terms of municipalities. So who's going to be on that board is going to be influential, and who ends up on the 708 board and represents the taxpayers and where that money is going. So this is a super important issue, and I'm really, really excited to advocate for it. Thank you.
Mary, when do we vote for township board people?
We vote on April 1, 2025. So this mental health board referendum, we're targeting it to be at the same election as the township board. So all the townships all over the state will have elections for their board, and every seat is up. And it's partisan, and it's decided by caucus, where with each party chooses who their slate is going to be in December, the December after the presidential election, and then you run during the spring. And no one ever knew when we ran in 2021. No one knew what the township was. Democrats didn't know what the township was. And they didn't, I kept hearing a lot of Democrats say they never voted in the spring because they didn't know who to vote for because it was nonpartisan. And so they were afraid to vote because they didn't want to, or they assumed they were all Republicans. And I had that this past spring when I was phone banking for District 211, and a woman said, "I'm not going to vote because I'm afraid of voting for the wrong person." And I was like, no, I can tell you this is who I'm supporting and this is why I'm supporting them. And so it's, our voters tend to skip these spring elections because they don't know. And these spring elections, the people who run in these municipal elections control our lives, because it's all local. And so, that's why we're trying to get involved with this. And I'm late because I was at a mural unveiling for Spruce Village. Spruce Village is it's a housing development in Palatine for people who are living with a disability. And it's a new building. It's up on Rand Road, kind of off Rand Road. You can't see it from Rand, but that the residents came together and painted a mural in their common room. So I was invited to an unveiling of that, and it was really, really lovely to see this. And that's why I was late. And Lori Granowy, who is on the 708 board, she also is active in housing issues, and so she was there, so she filled me in, and which is why I was late. But I'm glad I was late so I could get updated information from her.
Yeah. Okay. Now you have a couple more things that GPAD is doing. I know we're moving on almost to 8 o'clock. Is there one thing? I know that Chelsea is going to be in September. She's going to be at the first Thursday of the month.
Correct. Right.
You have the calendar here if you want me to put it up, Maria, and we can talk to it. Or
Yes.
Go ahead if you want to just talk
Yeah.
to the GPAD Dem
Sure.
calendar.
No, that sounds great. Thank you very much. Woohoo!
Okay, so I think you're seeing the calendar now. So, yeah, I've got like up, went too far. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
6 and then 17. Yeah.
Right. And so this weekend, we're going to finish up our canvassing. This is, so we'll be canvassing, but we won't be collecting signatures for the mental health board. Okay, but this was just to get my precinct captains out and talking to their neighbors and meeting other Democrats and just keeping up and keeping track of what was going on, what's going on in the town and what they're concerned about. And then we have the picnic. That's very important that we support NWSOFA. This is internal stuff, actually, Michelle.
Okay.
And so I think that there's two big things that are coming up. Number one, right after Labor Day is when we have to start collecting signatures for our Democratic candidates to help them get on the ballot. And in Palatine Township, what we'll be doing is we're going to try something new. We're going to be asking, usually what happens is that we have a petition rally and we invite people to come, and we have 25 clipboards out on a table with all the different candidates out there, and people go down the line and sign their names, and they're not exactly sure what districts they're in. They're not exactly sure who they're signing for. They maybe sign the wrong name, or they get tired and they can't go down the whole table. And we collect some signatures, but it's not a real efficient way of doing it. What we're doing this time is we're asking people to sign up for a 10-minute appointment, because if you make an appointment, you're more likely to keep it rather than saying, oh yeah, so from 10 to 12, I'll get over there, and then something happens and you don't get over there. And then when you sign up, we will know ahead of time. We'll ask for your name and your address, and then we're going to look up your districts for you. And we're going to give you a ticket that when you walk in, you'll have your name, and then you'll have a ticket that says what House district you're in and what Subcircuit district you're in. And then you're going to sit at a table, and there'll be a volunteer on the other side, and the volunteer will have one clipboard with 15 signatures on petitions on it. And then we'll walk you through and say, okay, you are in the 53rd district, so you are going to sign this sheet. We're going to skip Mary Beth Canty and Nabila because you don't live in that district, and you are in the 12th subcircuit, so you're going to sign for this. And it also signs for the Congress, because we're gonna have which congressional district you're in, because Raja and Mike Quigley are running again, and that so you can sit and we can get your signatures all the way from Congress all the way to Cook County, to the Cook County judges and the subcircuits. And this will really help our candidates get on the ballot. It will really help show support for our candidates. It will really help our Democratic voters feel, get them more involved with the whole process from the very beginning, because these candidates are standing up and saying, I want to run for this office. I feel really strongly that I want to help people and I want to be part of the process and part of our democracy. And part of that is standing up and saying, please support me and say that I can be on the ballot, that I should be on the ballot. And that's what the petitions do. You don't, we tell people, if you're not sure, this doesn't mean you're going to vote for them. It just means that you think that they should be on the ballot. And so we're hoping that this will kind of turbocharge our petitions, that we will have higher quality signatures that'll be more accurate, and then it'll be more fun, and a little bit more organized. So that's going to happen the weekend after Labor Day on the 9th and the 10th. And then, so we're going to have 2 days that weekend that you can sign up for if you're in Palatine Township. If you're in Lake County, don't sign up because we will not have your districts. If you're in Barrington, we'll have some of them, there's an overlap. And if you're in Arlington Heights, there'll be some overlap too. But Wheeling Township is doing this also. Mary Beth Canty is doing this. And Elk Grove, if there's anyone here in Elk Grove, they're going to be doing this kind of thing too. So we're going to have 4 dates. So we're going to have the Saturday and Sunday after Labor Day. We're going to have the Saturday after that, which is the 16th. And then at the end of September, on September 30th, Natalie Sahinaglu, who is our events coordinator, is going to have a petition rally in her driveway. So we will be in her driveway with our tables. She's going to let all of her neighbors know, all her Democratic neighbors know, to come up and sign. And that's another option that we'll have.
And also to be on your website. I know there's a QR code on the papers that you
on
have.
the paper, right? So that gets you to the calendar on our website, and you just scroll down to find the event that you want to sign up for.
Or they can go on your website's site, right? And do it there.
GPADEMS.org. So
You
there's
can also sign up to volunteer to help us text bank to get people on board, or to sit at the table to help people sign up.
Joyce and Cole are helping me organize this, and they're phenomenal, because what we want to do is we're going to be texting Democrats who are not part of our list to kind of grow the organization. So texting them to let them know that they can do this and participate in this. And this is something that in 2022, we had to collect petitions in January and February and in the snow. And I would go door to door. And I would say, would you like to sign for Governor Pritzker? What? I can sign for governor. Why well, because he wants to be on the ballot. Do you think that he should be on the ballot? And people felt like, more involved. And we also had Tammy Duckworth's petitions, and I was phone banking and calling people, say, will you come and sign? And a guy said, Tammy Duckworth, I'd do anything for Tammy Duckworth. And so this is part of the democracy, part of the process that a lot of people aren't really aware of. But we want to open it up and let people participate in that. So we need a lot of volunteers, because we need volunteers to text bank those people. It'll be super easy. We're figuring out how to get that set up. We need people who are going to come and sit at the table and be the circulators, be the person who is walking the voters through the list of petitions.
And if you're like outside of these areas, ask your local Democratic office if they're doing something like that, or contact us. And we want to expand this kind of thing all over the place, so that it's, we're effective for everybody in Illinois.
Right, because we could certainly grab, get some extra petitions of some of the other people who are in their area, because we'll be focusing on Cook County.
Okay.
And so we'll have everybody. And so that's happening. There's also on the 17th is the Eleanor Roosevelt Tea. This is the Northwest Suburban Democratic Women, and they have an annual tea. It's going to be in Elk Grove Village, and it's just lovely. It's just a lovely event that men and women are invited. I said at one event, men don't get to speak, and so people thought that meant they couldn't speak at all. But it's just that when we have the speakers come up to give speeches, it's only the women who do that. And it's in honor of Eleanor Roosevelt, who has so many wonderful quotes about being a woman in politics. And then we have our fundraiser. And so I want to invite everybody to that. It is Sunday, October 8th. There's no Bears game. It's from 2 to 5 at Emmett's. And I hope everyone can come out. We were very successful last year with our fundraiser, And by raising those funds, we could do so much outreach and really expand our influence in Palatine, because this stuff costs money. And so it's always very, very helpful, and it helps us support, it's a big reason why we were able to flip 2 House seats and defend a 3rd House seat, so that all of Palatine Township is blue in the House, and all of our Cook County commissioners are Democrats. And so it just really helps. So I hope that you can come out and support us, and come out to volunteer to help us collect signatures, and certainly come to sign petitions yourself.
Mary, thank you.
What time is it? Because I've got 2 minutes, so I have to sign off because I have to run another Zoom. Thank you for letting me come and talk.
Never ends, Mary. It never
No,
ends.
it doesn't.
I thought it did, but it doesn't.
No.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. So
Thank you,
Carrie
Maria.
Shug has asked, he's in Des Plaines, Elk Grove is probably closest, or should he come to the thing? You'll have him because he's Cook County, is that correct?
Right, we'll have all the countywide, but if he's in Des Plaines, that's Main Township, and that's Laura Murphy is the committee woman there, and I'm sure that she will be doing signature, that you'll be able to sign petitions for she'll have events there. Or he might be in Elk Grove Township, and so I know Ted Mason is the committee person there, and I know he's going to be having petition events also.
Okay, great. Wow. Yay,
Okay,
thank you.
so Maine, so that would be Senator Laura Murphy, and she's awesome, and I'm sure that she's going to be having petition events.
Thank you,
Okay.
Maria.
Okay,
Okay.
I have to go. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
thank you. Okay, so we are kind of running overtime here because it is 8 o'clock. We did have a couple tiny little things, but I'm going to keep them really, really, really short. We have been talking.
8:15.
Okay, all right, so I won't rush, but we'll keep it abbreviated. So we've been talking about writing letters to lawmakers here in this group because we found out that's a really influential thing to do. And over the last month, 3 ideas have popped up, and I just want to get everybody's feeling as if one of these ideas is better than the others, if people have other ideas, and would you like to work together on crafting a letter and looking into these things a little bit more before writing it? And I'm going to share my screen once again so you can see what these things are that I am talking about. So one idea that was suggested was 2 of these happened to do with guns, and maybe that's better for a different group, but requiring insurance for gun purchases. And I've heard that, you're going to stumble on that because gun ownership is a right. But then somebody else said, well, why not just put a sky-high tax on ammunition? Could that be a way to attack the problem? Less ammunition, it's all got to be a good thing. And then the third idea here is 12 weeks paid leave for new parents. Illinois has just recently passed 1 week. This is what we see in other states. So, California since 2004 has had 8 weeks parental leave. Other states now are doing 12 weeks parental leave, following the birth of a new parent or, sickness, that type of thing. So anyway, Illinois is kind of lagging in this regard. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen now because I know it's no fun to look at a screen in a Zoom. But I was hoping to get feedback on these ideas, and we'd like to get a couple of letters out by December. That's our goal here. Some really good letters.
Those are great. And I have one more, I'll throw it in there as well. We've been making some real progress in District D211 School Board, asking them to promote safe gun storage. And they are going to be discussing it at their next meeting. So if people want to email that school board and ask them to promote safe gun storage, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and they do listen to these things. They don't get that many people taking the time to write. So putting pen to paper is something we here would encourage you all to do. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here. You guys are probably the most active ones. So anyway, I'd be up for doing that, and I'm willing to put my name out there, and I'd love to work with, one of you on that if people are interested.
Would you recommend, Michelle, if, it seems like, we're not so sure what will be the best thing. I love the ammunition one. I think that's a great idea. I do. I think that may be something that we could work with. And maybe what we could do is I have everybody's, contacts, so that maybe we can kind of do some, maybe even at the picnic, we could talk a little bit more about
Well, that's a
something
great
there.
idea.
And then set up a date that maybe we could sit down together, even if there's 5 or 6 of us at a time. Because somebody said too on Indivisible that they have some good letters, like
Okay.
templates that maybe would be more effective than others. And we can sure we can find those too. But maybe kind of get a little deadline for this, like maybe November 1, or where we could have a decision made on something. All these are great ideas. And I know that Joyce is just doing a great job with the gun storage. And I know that sounds like, well, gun storage, but what, Joyce, 75% of the children that take guns to school or have guns is all because they're in their homes or their friend's home and they're not locked properly. So it is a big and serious issue. So if you have any more ideas, feel free to email Michelle or myself. Maybe we can talk more at the picnic about it, and take it from there. Maybe by November, have an idea.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to email Michelle and Kathy with a letter, like a sample letter, that's really a great way to get more people to give them something to start with, or just use that and send it on. Like, you don't have to spend that much time on it. That's
Right. Sure. And I think our own, heartfelt feelings too, especially if somebody's speaking from personal experience with any of these or whatever, that's also really impactful, so that it doesn't, that gets that personal touch. Okay. Kathy and I had a great discussion earlier this week or week before, as we were starting to plan our events tonight. And one of the things that we were talking about was canvassing and how it is impossible to canvass in some locations, mainly apartment buildings, because you can't get in, and you wouldn't want to go in representing a candidate if you weren't supposed to be in there in the first place. That wouldn't do the candidates any favors, right? So you really can't get into these places. But then it struck us that the people who live in apartments represent a demographic that we are really, really keenly interested in reaching and growing. And we were wondering, if our little group here, could maybe even do a postcard campaign and just filter the addresses that are in apartment. And over the course of, of weeks and months, hit everybody up with 3 or 4 postcards in a continuing series. And, I think I know we have one person who'd be willing to put up a little money to do this. And maybe we could get another person to match, or Indivisible. We don't know. We're spitballing here. We haven't talked to anybody about this. We are just spitballing.
Michelle and I would like to sit down with breakfast with Maria, because we believe that she probably has some names, because we're only hitting Democrats. I mean, when I go canvassing, that's all we're doing. And so I know there are Democrats in these apartments. I live in a multifamily and I'm not hit. I mean, they bypass me. And there are 4 people in my building. Well, we'll never get in. Well, I guess if we do postcards like Michelle is saying, some of these apartments and condos also have community rooms, where maybe we do postcards first, maybe even saying, hey, there's going to be a little get together, a little coffee and cookies, talk with us, maybe even have a candidate in the area. I just feel like I know that because I serve a lot of Hispanic people in our dental practice. And believe me, they are not getting the right information at all. So
anyway, ideas like we could say on these cards, we are really local to you. We would love to canvass and chat with you, but we can't because we don't get in the apartments, and over time build relationships and ideally get people out to vote in these April elections that have poor turnout, because they are going to make a difference. If we can set township boards and things like this when we have these off-year elections, and by building relationships with people that wouldn't otherwise be reached, we think that could be an interesting thing to do and talk about the issues, get the issues out there, let them know that, yeah, this is an important election. And here's some of the things that are going to be going on. And so anyway, we thought we might, kind of see if we could look at the maps and stuff and get an idea of really how many people would we be talking about? How many people would we be trying to reach if we just took on a state senator district or whatever, just Palatine, the community, how many doors would that be that we can't reach with canvassing, and then start an alternate campaign for a postcard outreach really written by us. Because there's a lot of these postcard campaigns going on. I'm sure a lot of, raise your hand if you've done a postcard, right? I must have wrote, 100 of them in the last campaign cycle. And I know I was responsible for getting like 700 or 800 out to other people for that, for some of the things that we were working on, like the judicial thing. So it really does make a difference. They say these cards are impactful.
It's a start.
It's a start.
Anybody nodding heads? Is this not a bad idea, or?
You like the idea? Would you write some postcards? We get sample postcards, and we could start with a small quantity, 300. If we get that many done, do some more, and just try to keep rolling it along. And I think anyway, so we're going to be floating that idea with some more of our leadership here, since here we are just spitballing with all of you right now. But anyhow, we thought that was another good idea.
And Ken Olson wrote, the Dem organization should have a database voters that can be searched for Democrat. And I think there is. I'm sure we can do that.
Oh, for sure.
And we have that. So we're gonna sit down with her a little bit and see if we can move something along. Yes, Vote Builder. Oh, Vote Builder. Susan Sitten says Vote Builder. Okay.
Sure. So yeah, exactly.
Right.
And I know there's a lot of organizations that sponsor postcard drives, and we don't want to interfere with, their efforts or anything, but this would be a way to kind of build local relationships, would be kind of our idea here. And reach people who can't otherwise be reached, and maybe target the ones who've only voted in one election, who voted in the presidential, never voted in a primary. That way you could really, really narrow your focus to people who could really maybe to grow the participation. And so as putting on my quant hat here or whatever. Okay. All right. Enough
I
of
think we
me.
did a lot, Michelle.
So I think we've covered quite a bit. We'd love to hear from you guys. We haven't heard from everybody today. We got, Ken, Susan, Carrie, we feel free to chime in. Jacqueline, you got something to say here. We are your group. Kathy, Joyce, we see you all there. So go ahead, Carrie. I see a hand.
I'm not sure postcards are a good idea. When I was canvassing, there were several cases where I talked to like a housewife, and she said she had to be circumspect because her husband was a radical Republican and she was liberal. So, for the postcard, the wrong person might see the postcard.
Oh, we're hoping a lot of right people see the postcards. Yeah, I understand.
But a few wrong people seeing the postcard could get the husband, beating down the wife. Don't you dare! Don't you blah blah blah! Don't you dare vote! Blah blah blah! Whatever. I'm just concerned. I'm raising a concern. Okay.
Yeah, it's a valid concern. I don't know. There might be stats on that. Because would you reach more than you offend? Because it's a numbers game.
When you pull those lists, you can do it. You can see whether the other person in the household registered with the other party. They
right. Well,
give us lists.
Let me speak from some experience here, because I dropped off signs for a candidate one year. I dropped off, 60, 70 signs one weekend, and they were specifically going to people who had gone on the website and requested a sign. And, most of these were, oh, thank you, great. We love the sign. All right. And then I get calls from two people. Oh, you got to come pick up this sign. And it was, and I didn't quite understand what was going on. And I'm trying to figure out why we put a sign out to somebody who didn't want one, right? And I went to pick up one. I'll come back and get it. Thank you for calling. You know, I'm going to arrive at your house. And it was a guy who had called me all angry that he had gotten the sign. And when I went to the house, a woman opened the door and she wouldn't even say anything, but she goes like this. Okay, so you can kind of see what was going on there. She was afraid to even,
Say it out loud.
you know, say it out loud, but that's all the mystery. So yeah, you know, on the other hand, for all we know, 38 of those others were also in divided households and they didn't call back and they still put their sign out there, you know. I don't know.
Or the spouse came in and and threw the sign out, more likely.
But yeah, but you know, we do postcard. I mean, lots of organizations are doing postcard campaigns. And so I think the thinking is that it is more of a positive than a negative because, you know, I mean, you'd never drop literature, right? You're getting candidate literature and stuff. So again, I think it's that numbers game and we're not going to write offensive postcards, right? We're trying to reach people and they're going to, you know, say things like the county board is up for, you know, seating, or we're going to be seating the trustees for Palatine Township or whatever. And it's really important that you vote, you know, so it's they wouldn't be, you know, super partisanly written in any case.
This is Sue Sitton. How are you? Can you hear me?
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes.
Yeah. I actually work for Postcards to Swing States, and you know they're the ones that have a lot of the data out there that postcards work, and all of the messaging that they do does not. It basically is to get people out to vote, and it goes to people that are likely to be Democrats. So it's kind of it does not have to be, you know, praising Democrats or things like that, but they've had a lot of really good results with doing postcards, and they've done millions of them, you know, last year. So
And
anyway, thank you. Sense.
Sue,
Mhm.
would you
Yeah.
say that there might be something that's written on everything that's printed? And then Michelle was saying too, that maybe a handwritten, like a little a signature or, you know, hope to see you out there at the polls or whatever. Does that help? Is that kind of what you recommend?
Yeah,
Like-
basically handwritten are more, you know, receptive than the ones that are pre-printed. So, and
Yeah, you want to pre-print the message. I mean, I was toying with the idea of you know, putting stickers on with addresses, but yeah, I get that. It's all about it being a handwritten piece. It's
exactly.
written by a
Yeah.
neighbor and yeah.
It's just signing your first name for it. But anyway, they've had a lot of really good success, just FYI.
And Sue,
Yeah.
maybe we could touch base with you a little bit more on some of that as we go down the road here, you know, some
Yeah.
things that is effective. That would-
Exactly. Yeah, and I could, yeah, because if you you can, I'll put my email in fact, you got my email, but I can
You should have it.
but I can also send you the instructions that we use, and you can kind of see what the messages look like.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and you know, we can't do this without, or we wouldn't want to do it without leadership, you know, being on board. I guess anybody could write a postcard, but there's, you know, you wouldn't get access to the address list that would tell you who to send postcards to, right?
right, well, that's the other thing too. If you guys get access to Vote Builder and you need help, let me know, because I have access to DuPage County. So if you get access to your areas, I can at least help you through how to search lists and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, great. Well, I think we should say goodnight. This was a lot. Thank you, everybody.
Great meeting, everybody. It's so good to see you all. And if you have ideas for stuff you want Stand With Women to talk about, or people you want us to have, you know, like we had Mary tonight, let us know, because this is your group and we're so glad you're all here, and thank everybody for we had everybody contribute tonight, and that's what we want to see. So thank you, and we'll see you next time. We'll probably 1 month from now, we'll get the notices.
Steve, Nick,
May I suggest one?
sure.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
This place is very based in Illinois, right? I was thinking maybe you could try that judge I mentioned, Michael Cincinnati, or
Yeah.
Judge Chick, you know, about the judicial system.